Welcome back, my friends. Let me ask you something honestly. When was the last time you opened your phone just for 1 minute and suddenly 1 hour disappeared? This is not just about scrolling. This is about your life. 1 year ago, there was a young man named Farid. He was ambitious. He had dreams. He wanted to learn new skills, improve his English, start a small online business. He had plans written in a notebook. But every night, something stole his time. Social media. It started innocently. Just checking notifications. Just watching one short video. Just replying to one message. But one video became 10. 10 minutes became 2 hours. And 2 hours became regret. Farid always told himself, tomorrow I will be productive. But tomorrow looked exactly like today. Wake up. Check phone. Scroll. Compare. Feel behind. Promise to change. Repeat. He watched other people succeed online. He watched motivational videos. He watched business tips. He watched language lessons. He was consuming everything, but creating nothing. One night, he looked at the screen in the dark room. The blue light reflected in his tired eyes. He felt empty. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't stupid. He wasn't incapable. He was distracted. And distraction is silent. It doesn't shout. IT whispers. Just one more video. Just 5 more minutes. You deserve a break. But the break never ends. Farid realized something painful. Social media was not just stealing his time. It was stealing his focus, his discipline, his confidence. Every scroll made him compare his life to others. Every like gave him a small dopamine hit. Every notification controlled his attention. He was not using social media. Social media was using him. That night, he did something different. He didn't delete all his apps dramatically. He didn't make a big announcement. He didn't promise extreme change. He simply asked himself one question: who is in control of my life? The silence was uncomfortable. He understood that addiction does not always look dangerous. Sometimes it looks normal. Everyone scrolls. Everyone posts. Everyone checks. But normal does not mean healthy. Farid decided to observe himself for 1 week. No change. Just observe. How many times did he unlock his phone? How many hours disappeared? How did he feel after scrolling? The answers shocked him. He was spending more than 4 hours a day online. 4 hours. That is 28 hours a week. More than a full day. He imagined what he could build with that time. A skill, a habit, a stronger mind. And for the first time, he felt something stronger than entertainment. He felt urgency. This was not about quitting the internet. This was about taking back control. That moment was small, quiet, invisible to everyone else. But inside Farid, something had started to wake up. And sometimes, the first step to breaking addiction is not action. It is awareness. This was only the beginning of his journey. And what he discovered next would completely change the way he saw his phone. And his future, the week of observation, changed Farid more than he expected. He did not try to quit social media. He did not force himself to delete anything. He simply watched his behavior like a scientist watching an experiment. And what he saw was uncomfortable. Every time he felt bored, he reached for his phone. Every time he felt stressed, he reached for his phone. Every time he wanted to avoid a difficult task, he reached for his phone. The phone was not the problem. It was his escape. Scrolling was easier than thinking. Watching was easier than creating. Comparing was easier than improving. One afternoon, Farid planned to study English for 1 hour. He prepared his notebook. He opened his laptop. Then a notification appeared. Just one message. He told himself, "I will reply quickly." 40 minutes disappeared. When he looked up, the energy was gone. The motivation was gone. The focus was broken. And the worst part? He felt guilty. That guilt slowly became heavy. Not because he used social media, but because he felt powerless. That night, he asked himself another question. What am I running away from? The answer surprised him. He wasn't addicted to entertainment. He was afraid of effort. Every time he tried to improve his life, his brain searched for comfort. Social media gave instant reward. Quick pleasure. No effort. But real growth felt slow, painful, uncertain, and his brain preferred easy dopamine over long-term success. Once he understood this, something shifted. The problem was not time. It was discipline. He realized that social media platforms are designed to keep attention. Endless scrolling, autoplay videos, bright colors, notifications. It was not weakness. IT was design. But design does not remove responsibility. Farid decided to make one small change. He turned off all non-essential notifications. No more random alerts. No more vibration every few minutes. No more red circles demanding attention. The silence felt strange at first. His hand still moved automatically toward the phone. Habit is powerful. But now, without notifications pulling him, the urge became weaker. The next step was even simpler. He moved social media apps from his home screen. Not delete, used hidden. Now, every time he wanted to open them, he had to search. That small extra effort created awareness. He was no longer opening apps unconsciously. He was choosing. And that difference matters. On the third day, something interesting happened. He finished 1 full hour of English study without interruption. 1 hour. IT felt small. But to him, it felt like victory. He was proving to himself that he could focus, He started using social media with intention. 30 minutes in the evening. Timer on. When the alarm rang, he stopped. Not perfectly. Not every day. But better than before. And with every small win, his confidence grew. He noticed something powerful. When he reduced scrolling, his mind became clearer. His thoughts felt deeper. His sleep improved. His anxiety decreased. The noise in his head became quieter. He realized that constant consumption was filling his brain with other people's lives, opinions, and success stories. But silence gave him space to build his own story. For the first time in a long time, Farid felt in control. Not completely free, but aware. And awareness is the beginning of freedom. He understood now that addiction does not disappear in one day. It weakens when you face it, step by step, choice by choice. And this was only the second stage of his journey. Because reducing distraction was one thing, but rebuilding his focus, that would be the real challenge. Reducing social media was easier than rebuilding focus. Farid learned that quickly. When the noise became quieter, something uncomfortable appeared. Silence. In that silence, there were no short videos, no endless scrolling, no quick laughs, just his own thoughts. And his thoughts were messy. He realized he had trained his brain for years to expect constant stimulation. Fast images, fast sounds, fast rewards. Now, when he tried to read for 20 minutes, his mind wanted escape. When he tried to sit quietly, he felt restless. When he tried to work deeply, his brain whispered, "Check your phone." This was not weakness. This was withdrawal. He understood something important. Addiction is not just about using something too much. It is about losing the ability to be comfortable without it. So Farid decided to train his focus like a muscle. He started small. 25 minutes of deep work. 5-minute break. Phone in another room. The first day was difficult. His hand moved automatically toward where the phone usually was. His brain felt bored after 10 minutes. But he did not quit. He stayed. He read slowly. He underlined words. He forced his mind to return every time it wandered. It was uncomfortable, but growth often is. After a week, something changed. 25 minutes felt easier. His concentration improved. He finished tasks faster, and something else happened. He began to enjoy deep focus. There is a different kind of satisfaction in finishing real work. It is not loud like a notification. It is quiet, strong, stable. One evening, instead of scrolling before sleep, he picked up a book. At first, it felt slow, but after a few pages, his imagination woke up. He wasn't watching someone else's life on a screen. He was building images in his own mind. That night, he slept better. Days passed. His screen time dropped from 4 hours to less than 2. He did not feel empty. He felt sharper. He noticed details around him. The sound of the wind, the way sunlight entered his room, the taste of his food. When your brain is not overloaded with constant stimulation, the real world becomes more vivid. But the biggest change was internal. He stopped comparing himself to strangers online. No more measuring his progress against filtered lives and edited success stories. Instead, he compared himself to yesterday's version of himself. And yesterday's version had more distractions. That was progress. He still used social media. He was not trying to escape the modern world. But now he used it as a tool, not as a refuge. He followed accounts that taught skills. He unfollowed accounts that triggered comparison. He posted less. He created more. One afternoon, he realized he had completed 3 important tasks before noon. In the past, he would still be scrolling in bed. That moment gave him something powerful. Self-respect. Not motivation. Not excitement. Respect. He was proving to himself that he could control his impulses. And when you control small impulses, you start believing you can control bigger areas of your life too. Social media had once felt like a master pulling invisible strings. Now it felt smaller, manageable. But the real test was coming. Because discipline is easy when you feel strong. The question is, what happens when you feel stressed, lonely, or tired? That was the next challenge waiting for Farid. And this time it would test him deeper than before, for a while. Farid felt powerful. His focus was stronger. His screen time was lower. His mind was clearer. But life does not test you when everything is easy. It tests you when you are tired. One stressful week changed everything. Work became heavier. Deadlines got closer. One small mistake at work made him doubt himself. He felt pressure building inside. That evening, he sat on his bed, exhausted. His brain whispered something familiar. Just relax. Just scroll. You deserve it. It sounded harmless. He opened one app. Another. 2 hours disappeared. When he finally looked at the time, it was late. His head felt heavy. His chest felt tight. The old guilt returned. He had felt strong for weeks. Now he felt weak again. For a moment, he thought, maybe I haven't changed. Maybe I will always be like this. That thought was dangerous. Because relapse does not destroy progress. But shame does. The next morning, instead of criticizing himself, Farid did something different. He reflected. Why did he fall back? The answer was simple. He used social media to escape stress. The problem was not the phone. It was emotional discomfort. He understood something powerful that day. If you remove distraction but don't learn how to handle stress, you will always go back. So instead of only controlling his screen time. He started building emotional strength. When stress appeared, he went for a short walk. When anxiety grew, he wrote his thoughts in a notebook. When he felt overwhelmed, he took deep breaths for 5 minutes. Simple actions, but powerful. The next time a difficult day arrived, the urge to scroll came back. But this time, he paused. He did not fight the urge. He served IT. IT roses lol. IT felt strong. It told him he needed quick comfort. But instead of reacting immediately, he waited. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and something surprising happened. The urge became weaker. He realized that impulses are like waves. They rise, they feel intense, but if you don't act, they fall. This changed his perspective completely. He was not addicted because he was weak. He was addicted because he reacted automatically, and automatic behavior can be retrained. He began practicing delayed response. Whenever he wanted to check social media, he told himself, wait 10 minutes. Sometimes he still checked it, but many times after 10 minutes, the desire disappeared. That small delay rebuilt his control. He also noticed something deeper. When he reduced scrolling during stressful days, his confidence increased more than during normal days. Because discipline under pressure builds real strength. Anyone can be focused when life is calm, but staying disciplined when you are tired, stressed, or emotional, that is growth. Weeks passed again. He was not perfect. Some days were messy. Some evenings he scrolled longer than planned. But the difference now was clear. He no longer felt trapped. He felt aware. He felt capable of correcting himself. And that is what freedom really looks like. Not perfection. Control. Social media had once controlled his mood, his focus, and his time. Now, it was just an app on his phone. Nothing more. But the biggest transformation was not about screen time. It was about identity. Farid no longer saw himself as someone who is easily distracted. He saw himself as someone who can struggle and still choose better. And once a person changes how they see themselves, their future changes too. But one final realization was waiting for him. A realization that would redefine not only how he used social media, but how he used his life. After weeks of struggle, discipline, relapse, and reflection, Farid began to notice something unexpected. He had more time, not just extra minutes. Real time. Evenings felt longer. Mornings felt calmer. His days were no longer broken into tiny pieces of distraction. And with that time came a strange question. What am I going to do with it? Before, social media had filled every empty space. Waiting in line. Scroll. Feeling bored. Scroll. Lying in bed. Scroll. Now there were gaps. And gaps can feel uncomfortable if you are not used to them. At first, he felt restless. He didn't know what to do with quiet moments. His brain still wanted stimulation. But instead of running back to old habits, he chose something different. He started building. He returned to the goals he once wrote in his notebook. Improve English. Exercise regularly. Read more. Develop one useful skill. He didn't try to do everything at once. He picked one. English. 30 minutes every evening. No phone. Just him, his notebook, and focused practice. The first week was slow. Progress felt small. But unlike scrolling, this effort left him energized instead of empty. He began noticing improvement. His vocabulary expanded. His confidence grew. He could understand videos without subtitles. That feeling was different from likes and notifications. It was earned, and earned satisfaction lasts longer than instant pleasure. He also began exercising 3 times a week. Nothing extreme, just simple movement. A short run, push-ups, stretching. The more he invested in himself, the less attractive endless scrolling became. Because when you start building your own life, watching others build theirs becomes less interesting. One evening, an old friend invited him to join an online discussion group in English. Months ago, he would have refused. He would have felt insecure. Now, he accepted. He was nervous at first, but he spoke. He made small mistakes. He corrected himself. He continued. After this essay, he felt proud. Not because he was perfect, but because he showed up. That night, he realized something powerful. Social media addiction had not only stolen his time, it had stolen his belief in himself. Every hour spent comparing his life to others had weakened his confidence. But every hour spent improving his own skills rebuilt it. Confidence is not downloaded. It is constructed. Brick by brick. Choice by choice. Farid understood that the real opposite of addiction is not abstinence. It is purpose. When you have something meaningful to work on, distraction loses its power. He still used social media sometimes. He laughed at videos. He chatted with friends. But now it was a small part of his day, not the center of it. And something deeper had changed. He was no longer afraid of boredom. He was no longer uncomfortable with silence. He could sit alone with his thoughts without reaching for a screen. That ability may sound simple, but in a world addicted to noise, it is rare strength. His focus was sharper. His sleep improved. His anxiety reduced. He felt more present in conversations, more aware of time passing. And time no longer disappeared without his permission. For the first time in years, Farid felt aligned with himself, not chasing distractions, not escaping effort, building, growing, living intentionally. But transformation is not a straight line. There was still one final layer he needed to understand. A truth about identity that would decide whether this change was temporary. Or permanent. Change is exciting in the beginning. But the real question is not how you start. It is who you become. Farid noticed something subtle. His habits were improving. His focus was stronger. But inside, a quiet fear still existed. What if I go back? That fear was honest. Because habits can change. But identity decides whether they stay. One evening, he opened his old screen time report from 2 months ago. 4 hours. Sometimes 5. Now it was less than 1.5. He should have felt proud. But instead, he felt thoughtful. He understood that if he still saw himself as someone trying to control addiction, then the fight would never end. So he changed the way he spoke to himself. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to reduce social media," he said, "I am someone who protects his focus." That small shift changed everything. Identity creates behavior. When you see yourself as disciplined, you act disciplined. When you see yourself as distracted, you act distracted. Farid stopped fighting social media. He started protecting his future. Every time he chose to study instead of scroll, he wasn't just completing a task. He was reinforcing who he was becoming. Weeks passed. People around him noticed the difference. "You seem calmer. You look more confident. You're more focused these days." They did not know about the small daily battles, the delayed urges, the uncomfortable silences, the nights he almost relapsed. But those invisible moments built him. One afternoon, he met a friend who was constantly checking his phone during conversation. Notifications every few minutes. He's moving from screen to face. For the first time, Farid saw his old self from the outside. And it felt strange. Not judgment, awareness. He realized how normalized distraction had become. How common it was to live half present. That day, he made a deeper decision. He would not only reduce social media, he would live consciously. He began setting no phone hours. Morning until 10 a.m. Evening after 9 p.m. The mornings became powerful. Instead of starting the day with other people's opinions and images, he started with his own goals. He wrote plans, reviewed priorities, practiced English, exercised. His energy felt directed. At night, without scrolling before sleep, his dreams became clearer. His mind felt lighter. But the most important transformation was internal. He stopped needing validation. Before, a post with many likes made him happy. A post ignored made him doubt himself. Now, he measured his day differently. Did I improve? Did I act with discipline? Did I move one step forward? If the answer was yes, that was enough. One evening, while sitting quietly, he thought about something powerful. Social media itself was not evil. IT connects, IT informs, IT inspires. But without awareness, it consumes. and he had been consumed. Now he was conscious. He used it when necessary, closed it when done, logged out when focus mattered. Simple boundaries. Strong impact. Months earlier, he believed addiction was a monster he had to fight. Now he understood it was simply misdirected attention. And attention is a choice. His journey was not dramatic. No big announcements. No extreme digital detox. Just daily decisions. Small corrections. Consistent awareness. And that is what made it sustainable. Farid no longer feared going back, because he was not relying on motivation. He had built discipline. He had rebuilt identity. And, most importantly, he had proven something to himself. He could control his impulses. And when you learn to control your impulses, you begin to control your life. Months passed. Farid was no longer counting screen time every day. He was no longer fighting urges every hour. Something deeper had changed. He trusted himself. That trust was new. Before, when he promised to wake up early, he broke it. When he promised to study, he delayed it. When he promised to reduce scrolling, he failed. And every broken promise weakened his self-respect. But now, when he said he would focus for 1 hour, he did. When he said he would close the app, he closed it. Small, kept promises rebuilt his confidence more than any motivational video ever could. One afternoon, he received a notification from a platform he used to spend hours on. It was trending, viral. Everyone was talking about it. For a moment, curiosity appeared. Old habit knocked gently. But instead of reacting automatically, he paused. He asked himself one simple question: is this helping my future? The answer was clear. He smiled, locked his phone, and returned to his work. Not because he had no temptation, but because he had clarity. That was the real freedom. Not deleting the world, not escaping technology, but choosing intentionally. Farid realized something powerful about addiction. It promises connection, but often delivers isolation. It promises entertainment, but often leaves emptiness. It promises escape, but often steals direction. The problem was never the screen. It was unconscious living. When you move through life automatically, reacting to every notification, every trend, every impulse, you slowly lose authorship of your own story. But when you pause, when you question, when you choose, you take the pen back. One evening, sitting alone without noise, he reflected on the person he had become. He was more focused, more disciplined, more present, more confident. Not perfect, but intentional. And intentional living changes everything. He still used social media sometimes. He laughed at short videos. He messaged friends. He shared useful content. But now it was a tool, not a master. He understood something that many people ignore. Your attention is your life. Where your attention goes, your future grows. If your attention is scattered, your progress will be scattered. If your attention is focused, your growth will be powerful. Social media addiction was not just about wasted hours. It was about misplaced attention. And once he redirected his attention toward growth, learning, relationships, and health, his life began moving forward naturally. There was no dramatic ending, no fame, no overnight success, just steady improvement. And that is more powerful than temporary excitement. If you are listening to this story and you see yourself in Farid, understand this. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are simply distracted in a world designed to distract you. But awareness is power. Small boundaries are power. Delayed reactions are power. And every time you choose discipline over impulse, you strengthen your future self. Vandi. You will look back and realize that the moment you decided to control your attention was the moment you started controlling your life. Thank you for being here. If this story made you think differently about your time, your focus, or your habits, then it has done its job. Until the next video, protect your mind, protect your attention, and build a life you are proud of.